morning. I'm Shane Matthews coming to you from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. I'm going solo today. JC, John Cornell, is out on assignment for the next few days. So we have an action-packed show lined up for you today. We'll be talking college basketball, college football, a little bit of NFL, whatever you want to talk about in the world of sports. We'll be joined around 8:20 by Brent Beard over in Jacksonville, who is a co-host for College Sports Today, giving us a rundown of his thoughts of the national championship game Monday night, also what's going on around the world of college football. If you missed it last night, Florida Gators come back home to the O'Connell Center, get a big win, 71-55 over the Ole Miss Rebels, who played without Bryn Tyree, their best player. They also had another starter that was suspended. But a good win. Gators moved to 11-5, 3-1 in the conference. And boy, oh boy, does the schedule. The next three games are going to be extremely difficult. Saturday, they host the Auburn Tigers, who rank fourth in the country at the moment. Still undefeated, one of two teams in the country. And then next week, they travel to LSU, who won the conference last year. And then they come back home and play, I think, Baylor Bears, who are ranked number 2 or 3 in the country. So tough stretch for the Gators, but they get two of those top 5 ranked teams in the O'Connell Center, which will help. Congratulations to Coach Mike White on winning his 100th game here at the University of Florida. Billy D won his 100th game in 154 games. Took Mike White 158 games. So congratulations to him. It's funny. I talk about it daily on this show, at the gas station, grocery store, wherever it may be. People complaining about Mike White and this basketball team. Folks, it's college basketball. And if you don't follow anyone other than the Florida Gators, let me give you a little rundown here real quick. North Carolina got beat at home. They're barely 500 to Clemson last week. First time Clemson has ever in the school history won in Chapel Hill in 59 tries. Well, last night, this Clemson Tiger team, who sits at 9-7, who has lost to South Carolina, Yale, many other teams, 9-7, beats Duke, the third-ranked team, last night. So Clemson just beat North Carolina and Duke on back-to-back games. Also, that Missouri Tiger team that shot lights out against the Florida Gators on Saturday night lost 72-45 to the Mississippi State Bulldogs last night. So it's college basketball. Crazy, crazy things are happening out there. LSU defeats Texas A&M, if you missed it, in overtime last night, 89-85. San Diego State stays unbeaten. The Aztecs and the Auburn Tigers are the only two unbeaten teams in college basketball. Also, tonight should be a fun game, some fun games to watch in the SEC. Kentucky's at South Carolina, Tennessee's at Georgia, and Vandy at Arkansas. But the one game that I'm going to be tuned in, if I can, the fourth-ranked Auburn Tigers, as I mentioned, come to the O'Connell Center on Saturday. They play at Alabama tonight, and I think everyone knows the team Alabama has this year should be a fun game, a lot of threes. Shot clock should not come into play in this game at all. Two games I want to mention that are tonight. The Butler Bulldogs, who I think the Gators lost to at their place, are ranked 5th in the country. I don't think people realize it. They're ranked 5th in the country. They host Seton Hall, who's ranked 18th in the country. Also, another one of the losses that Florida has on their schedule this year, the Semis from Florida State. They are hosting the defending national champs tonight, the Virginia Cavaliers. And Florida State's ranked 9th in the country. So when you look at Florida's got 5 losses, and 2 of them are the top 10 teams. So just hold your breath. They will be fine. It's a long season. Florida will make the tournament, and we'll see what happens from there. Some NFL notes. Luke Kuechly, some notes coming out of the Carolina Panthers. Luke Kuechly, tremendous linebacker at age 28, has decided to retire from football. And the other big news coming out of Charlotte, Joe Brady, offensive coordinator for the national champion LSU Tigers, is going to be the offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. Also in the NFL, Antonio Gates, who's been playing forever, tight end for the San Diego, Los Angeles Chargers, has decided to retire as well. If you want to get involved with the program today, give us a text or call on the Titan MRI hotline. It's 352-353-7465. We have a text here from Daryl says, good win for the basketball team last night. With Joe Brady going to the Panthers, do you think the Panthers will trade away a bunch of picks to the Bengals to get Joe Burrow? Wow, that's a great question. A lot of issues at the quarterback position for the Panthers right now, with Cam Newton being injured most of the year. Didn't really think about that, but there's always a possibility. I'm sure we'll get more talk about that. I don't know where the Panthers are picking in the NFL draft order at this time, but when we have Brent Beard on at about 8:20, we'll get his thoughts about Joe Burrow and see if that may be a possibility. Also, if you want to chime in on what's going on in Major League Baseball with the Astros stealing signs, and now Alex Cora, who was kind of part of that when he was with the Astros, who has been the manager of the Boston Red Sox, has been relieved of his duties as the manager of the Red Sox. So basically, these teams were cheating, and I'd like to get your thoughts on that. Also, if you're local here in Gainesville, on campus today, Gators men's tennis, ranked number 1 in the country, hosts number 2 Texas. Number 1 versus number 2 today at 5 o'clock on campus. Should be a tremendous, tremendous match. Again, the number to call is 353-7465 at 8:20. We'll be joined by Brent Beard, who is the college football analyst for First Coast News over in Jacksonville, also co-host of College Sports Today. Also like to get your thoughts. There's a lot of talk out there around the country that is this LSU team that won the national title on Monday night. Is it the best football team in college football history? A lot of close friends of mine that are in the media believe they are. And the more that I think about it, I may have to agree with them for what they did, the teams that they beat. You know, they beat the preseason top 4 teams in America. They beat the Orange Bowl champ, who is the Florida Gators. They beat the ACC champ in the national title game. What they did was a remarkable run, and I'm on record saying what Joe Brady, to me, I mean, not Joe Brady, but Joe Burrow might be the best college quarterback I've ever seen. Obviously, the single season that he had was by far the best we've ever seen. Also, I'm not sure if anyone saw the videos after the national championship game. It was quite interesting. You could see it on Twitter. Odell Beckham Jr., former LSU Tiger wide receiver, was handing out wads of cash to the LSU players. The old saying, $100 handshakes, they're like quite more than $100. So hopefully he was giving cash to kids that have no eligibility left, because that could be a violation, I would assume. Again, want your text for if you got any comments for the Florida Gator basketball team. Again, they won last night 71-55 over the Ole Miss Rebels. Mike White gets his 100th win. We'll have Brent Beard, as I said, at 8:20. Tomorrow on the program, we're going to have Austin Gale from Pro Football Focus join us. He gives a breakdown of what's going on in the National Football League. Also talk a lot about the NFL playoffs, which I'm excited for these 2 games this Sunday. You know, you got the AFC Championship game between the Chiefs and the Tennessee Titans. What a story they are. I'm not sure that the Titans can hold up against the Chiefs. The Chiefs are so explosive on offense, maybe the most explosive offense I've ever seen in the National Football League. A lot of people want to think back to the greatest show on turf when the Rams with Kurt Warner and those guys, Isaac Bruce, Marshall Faulk. These guys are way more explosive. You know, Patrick Mahomes, the things that he can do from the quarterback position, but the speed that they have. You know, it's a tough assignment for a defense to line up and play these guys man-to-man with the athleticism, the speed that they have on the outside. If you play zone, Pat Mahomes will pick you apart. So I'm anxious to see what Mike Vrabel and the defensive staff does for the Tennessee Titans, because I'm not sure that they can score enough. You got to believe the Chiefs are going to try to take away Derrick Henry, what he's done the last couple of games, rushing for over 100 yards in consecutive games, 180 yards, that is. They're going to make Ryan Tannehill beat them. And he's thrown for less than 100 yards the last 2 weeks. So we will see what happens in that game. I think the closest game possibly be the 49ers and the Packers. And like I said, we'll talk more about this in the next few days. But I think the 49ers are the best overall football team in the National Football League. Again, if you want to send us a text, we just got a text here. It says, any concerns? Let me see if I can read this. And this is the Titan MRI text line. Again, it's 353-7465. This is from Joe in Stark. He says, any concerns with the way that Trey Mann is playing for the Gator basketball team? His minutes have been limited. Do you think he may transfer? Way too early, Joe. I think that's a tremendous point. Trey Mann was highly recruited coming into here, along with Scotty Lewis, 2 5-stars, and Omar Payne as well. I think he struggled. He made a 3-pointer out of an inbounds play last night against Ole Miss with 1 second left, and somehow the shot clock operator, I think he hit the button a little too quick, but it went in. He just needs to see the ball go in the hole. But he's too good of a player. He's just in one of those slumps right now. I think he will come out of it. Way too athletic. Just a really good player. I don't see him transferring. I think he's still going to have a huge, huge role for this basketball team as the season progresses. Again, as I said, Florida's probably got one of the toughest stretches the next 3 games. Auburn, who's still undefeated as we have this podcast. They play tonight at Alabama. Anything can happen in Tuscaloosa the way Alabama gets up and down the floor now and shoots all those threes. But Auburn probably will come in here undefeated. It wouldn't surprise me if Alabama won tonight, actually. But they'll come in here, top 5 ranked team. Then Florida goes to Baton Rouge, which is a difficult place to play against an extremely athletic basketball team. Then they come back home and play the Baylor Bears, who pounded Kansas on their home court this past Saturday. Again, at 8:18, if you have any questions for Brent Beard regarding college football, we'll be happy to take your text. The number to text is 352-353-7465. That will be the Titan MRI text line, and we're coming to you from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. I'm anxious to see what people, as the all season progresses, they've come out with the top 20, the AP top 20. The Florida Gators ended up 6th in the country. You saw the odds that have come out for who they think will win the national championship next year. Florida's in that mix. Like I said, Clemson will be the favorite, obviously. They have a lot of returning sophomores and freshmen that played on this team, but a lot of experts think the Clemson Tigers will be better in 2020 than they were this year. So you can go ahead and pencil them in my opinion, to the 14 playoff. And then, as we talked about yesterday on the program, Ohio State out of the Big Ten probably. I don't think Michigan will ever take that step to surpass them. And then it comes down to, who comes out of the SEC. And there could be 2 teams out of the SEC next year. I think it's a 4-team race. It is Alabama, LSU, and there's a lot of question marks with both teams. They're going to lose their quarterback. You look at the East, I think it's a 2-team race. It's Florida, Georgia. Has Florida narrowed the gap with Georgia? Absolutely they have. That's the one game I think a lot of Florida fans, coaches, players wish they could play again, the game over in Jacksonville. We didn't play our best. We didn't coach our best. They lose Jake Fromm. They lose Swift. They lose tons of linemen. We return our quarterbacks. We return a lot of good players. I think Florida should be the favorite when it's all said and done. When you go to SEC Media Days, I think Florida will be the favorite among the media members over there to win the East. But with our schedule, you got to go to Tennessee, you got to go to Ole Miss, and you got to go to Vandy. That's your 3 road trips. Everything else is in the state of Florida. And you get LSU at home, and as I said, we don't know what's going to happen with Joe Brady leaving. We don't know if Miles Brennan's going to be their quarterback, who it may be. They're going to lose a lot of their skill guys. They don't lose Jamar Chase. He's not eligible to go pro. They're going to have athletes, but I'm telling you, that quarterback was sensational all year long. So we're going to take a quick time out here. This is Matthews in the Morning, coming to you from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. When we come back, we'll be joined by Brent Beard, First Coast News over in Jacksonville, talking college football. We'll be right back.
Time out! Time out! Hey! Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, small enough to serve you, large enough to care.
Bob in trouble, gets rid of it. Oh, big hit.
Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility.
Our touchdown sponsors are Radware Promotional Materials, Gators Dockside, Doreen Weeby Realtor, Gator BTW, Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, Miapa Latin Cafe, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Okido America Martial Arts and After School, and Tropical Smoothie Cafe.
If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the Advertise button or call Freddie Weeby at 352-284-3733.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
For the end zone. He's got a touchdown.
And we'll go straight to you, my man. I appreciate it. Welcome back. Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning, coming to you from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. And we're going to go straight to our Titan MRI hotline. That number is 353-7465 if you want to text the program. And we're joined now by our good buddy Brent Beard from over in Jacksonville, as co-host of College Football Today, also the college football analyst for First Coast News over in Jax. You can check him out on Twitter at Brent Beard. Brent, welcome to the program. Thanks for joining us, bud.
Shane, always a pleasure. I'm a little bit sad now that the season is over. Man, it just seemed like it was yesterday, doesn't it, that we were at week 0 for Miami and for Florida, and now, unfortunately, we're at the end. But all in all, it was a tremendous season, wasn't it?
No doubt about it. I mean, as you mentioned, it goes very, very fast. And let's go back to Monday night in the Superdome over in New Orleans. Brent, a lot of people, a lot of experts, and I'd like to get your thoughts, say this LSU team may be the best college football team of all time. What are your thoughts about that? And give me some of your thoughts about the game the other night.
I'm hesitant to say at this point that they would be the greatest of all time. I think you could make an argument that it may have been the best offense of all time to some degree. But let me say this real quick. Shane, the reality is, for people who watch football for a long time, the wishbone teams of the 70s and the Nebraska team of the mid-90s were as dominant running the ball and controlling the clock as LSU is with these explosive plays. I think we get mesmerized, and I get it, by these modern-day passing attacks here. And I'm not trying to be the guy who wants you to get off the lawn, a curmudgeon type thing, but I think people forget sometimes that football has been dominated on offense is equally about running as it has been by passing. But again, a great win for LSU, a great win for the SEC. What Joe Burrow did has just been, frankly, unequaled in a lot of ways. I thought the LSU defense came up big in the game. They had slowly been getting better under Dave Aranda, their D coordinator, who, by the way, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but there was some thought. Ross Dellinger put this out last night on Twitter, as just a suggestion, Hawaii now is looking for a coach since their coach, Nick Rovalich, is going to Washington State. So there's a little bit of connect the dots logic there about Randa maybe going to Hawaii, but we're not saying that's going to happen. But obviously, the job that Joe Brady did as basically the passing game coordinator, now he's going to the Panthers. So it really just it all came together, Shane, in the perfect storm with Brady and Aranda and Burra and Orgeron. It was just an amazing, probably made for TV movie or 30 for 30 or something like that that's coming up very soon. But Clemson hung in. But Trevor Lawrence, either by LSU's defense or by whatever reason, was off target pretty much the entire night. LSU, as they did, eventually got control of the game, and it was quite a night for the LSU Tigers.
Yeah, when speaking of Coach O, I don't know him personally, but just the things that I've seen from him, and I love his interviews. They crack me up anytime he speaks. With him losing Joe Brady, you don't see a whole lot of head coaches like him that make a huge change, especially a defensive-minded guy like him, being an old defensive line coach. So now, where do they go, you think, from an offensive standpoint? You're losing one of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time. You're losing a guy that changed the entire outlook of your offense. Where do you think they go now? Where does Coach O go now offensively?
Well, they've got Miles Brennan, but we don't know enough about him, and he hasn't had enough experience yet. He's got a small sample size. I think he's done fine when he came in. I think if O was smart, that he really is able to go out and get someone who can continue to do what Brady did with the offense and opening up. Now they're obviously going to be losing some receivers, and we're yet to know who's all going out for them, which will be fascinating to be able to see. So I think he'll probably continue what he's done. And Shane, I'll say this: they have had the talent at LSU to do what they have done this year over the last decade or so. But Les Miles, whose greatest strength with it was his being obstinate and being stubborn, was also his greatest weakness in that he refused to open it up and join the current century with his offense, or they would have won a national championship before now. And obviously Miles won one, I think more with Nick Saban's players, but the reality is I think O stays the course and tries to do what he's done, but Shane, that Western Division is so tough. Man, if you take a step back, it may take 2 or 3 years before you get to be where you were before.
Yeah, I thought I read somewhere where the West, there's been a team from the West play for the national title 10 of the last 11 years. Is that true?
Correct.
Yeah, that's crazy when you think about that. Did you happen to see the video of Odell Beckham Jr. handing out wads of cash to the LSU players? That's got to be a violation, right?
I know LSU comes out and says, well, it's basically monopoly money, but I'll say this: if I was LSU's compliance folks, that they may have a busy next few days. The problem again with that is who's going to know and who's going to be able to trace that to see, but. Look, one way or another, whether it was fake or whether it was real, there was certainly a video they didn't want to get out.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, the final AP poll came out. Obviously, LSU's 1, Clemson 2. Florida Gators come in at 6. And I could look at this top 8 right here, Brent, and I think it's a safe bet to say out of these top 8 teams, 4 of those are going to be playing for the national title next year. Would you agree?
Oh, there's no question. I think that's exactly right. And in your early top 25s, I think that's what we're going to be seeing. Ohio State certainly is not going away. Now they're obviously lose some of their stars, Chase Young and J.K. Dobbins, etc. but they will certainly be up there. I tell you, a team that you really need to watch out for, Shane, is Oregon. And as a matter of fact, several of their defensive players announced yesterday that they were coming back. Now, they've got to replace Justin Herbert at quarterback, but that's going to be continuing what Mario Cristobal has done there has been very impressive, to say the least. Georgia now bringing in Jamie Newman. How good is he going to be? Will he be more effective than Jake Fromm? Will they open up their offense? But again, as I know you talked about, certainly a lot of people are going to be bowling up Florida with a chance with the losses in the offensive line at Georgia and at quarterback for the Gators to be very much a possibility to win their division.
Before we dive into the SEC team by team, Brent, let's talk a little bit about Clemson. Obviously, the run that Dabo's had has been phenomenal. And a lot of people think this Clemson program, the team is going to be better next year. Do you think they'll be better than they were this past year under Trevor Lawrence?
Listen, I think that's very possible. The scary thing about Clemson is, and a lot of people missed this during the week, but Dabo said this repeatedly, out of their 120-man roster, 80 kids are freshmen or sophomores.
Wow.
I mean, that's amazing to be able to think about that in what they have done. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence comes back. He'll be certainly motivated after the national championship game. Yes, I can see them not missing a beat. I mean, they're still clearly the best team in their conference, frankly, by far. At this point, defensively under Brent Venables, they're always going to be good. Clemson's allowed more than 27 points in 3 out of their last 44 games.
Wow. So
nothing's going to be going there. One thing real quick about the other night, that as far as Clemson is concerned, and you probably picked up on this too, Shane, when LSU scored and got it within 3 in the second quarter, they had gotten some real success, Clemson did, by running the ball with Travis Etienne. And for whatever reason, they went away from that. And that was a real tactical mistake on their part. They really should have run the ball more with him. I know they were trying to get Trevor Lawrence out and be able to run a little bit too, and he had a good year by doing that. But I think taking the ball out of Etienne's hands really hurt them going in the second half. They didn't do much. LSU gets the ball. They scored at the end of the half. That was huge, but overall, Clemson's not going to miss much going into next year at all, absolutely.
No doubt about it. We're speaking with Brent Beard over in Jacksonville, co-host of College Football Today, also the analyst on First Coast News on the Titan MRI hotline. Brent, pretty much all coaches, college positions, head coaches have been filled, I believe, except the Baylor Bears. What are you hearing out of Baylor now that Matt Rule's moved on?
Right. Well, the interesting thing from Baylor, and a lot of this just came out last night, is Virginia Tech's Justin Fuente is one of the leaders in maybe getting that position. I've also seen the possibility of guys like Billy Napier, who a lot of people thought were going to be in that Mississippi State job before Mike Leach got it. But Fuente, I think, really did a tremendous job at Memphis. He did a decent job, I thought, at Virginia Tech. They struggled some this past year. Boise State coach Brian Harsin is also kind of in that mix a little bit too. Now, Baylor might stay on that staff with Joey McGuire, who's their interim coach. He's pretty popular among the players, but again, Shane, as you know, you don't always keep a coach because he's popular, and sometimes those seamless transitions among the staff really don't work. But that would be fascinating to see if Fuente left Virginia Tech for Baylor and see if that happens. We're not saying it is, but who they would get, because I still contend that Virginia Tech job is a good job.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I don't know if we spoke with you before or after Mike Leach last week when Mike Leach was hired at Mississippi State. I think it's a tremendous hire. I love Mike Leach. What are your thoughts about him going to Starkville?
Oh, I think it's one of the best hires that they could have done. And look, it goes beyond just winning the press conference type thing. I mean, they're dealing with Ole Miss, and of course, Ole Miss is going to be better under Lane Kiffin. I think Mississippi State will be better under Mike Leach. I mean, look, Shane, one thing you can depend on with Mike is they'll have whoever's going to be. They'll have a quarterback next year who will probably throw for about twice the amount of yardage.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
That you did this year. If he stays with one on the team, if he goes out and gets a transfer. But I'm with you. It's a great hire. I mean, there was nothing like watching Mike Leach come off the plane ringing a cowbell as he was greeted by the cheerleaders and the administration and so forth. So that's going to be very fascinating to see what he does there.
Yeah, maybe they'll put Leach and Kiffin on the same day when y'all go to SEC Media Days. That would be great. When you watch the telecast Monday night of the national title game, there's Nick Saban sitting on the studio set. What's going on up in Tuscaloosa? Any breaking news coming out of there right now?
Well, the thing they're waiting on right now is the announcement from Najee Harris, the tremendous running back, whether he's going to the NFL or not. Now, the deadline, again, is the 20th, which obviously is next Monday. From what we hear, Najee's coming back, which would be very important for them if that happens. Now, they've got some really good running backs. Trey Sanders is a kid that was heralded last year, but he tore his ACL. He didn't play, so he's going to be ready coming in for this season. And Brian Robinson's coming back, so I think they'll be fine at running back at this point. There's also a lot that is, I think, is going on. By the way, Jerome Ford is going to the transfer portal. He's going to Cincinnati, but he was like probably fifth string running back in Alabama. There's a lot of talk, and I think this is going to happen over the next few days, about some changes on that defensive staff. Saban went very young, 2 or 3 years ago, Shane, and brought in a lot of guys who were good recruiters, but they weren't real good technicians as far as coaches. So I think he's trying to split the difference here and get a little bit of both. So I think you'll see some changes going on as far as the staff is concerned. They're refurbishing a lot of the facilities, including the stadium right now at Bryant-Denny. And Saban got some high marks for what he had to say on television the other night. Listen, he's a natural for that. Whenever he retires, I think they will eventually, someone's going to hire him, Shane, for television because he's usually pretty well spot on in what he says. But Saban, either intentionally or unintentionally, has kind of become a spokesman for the game as far as just on some national issues and so forth. It explains himself very well. So I think after he retires, and he's in a hurry to do that he'll have a long career in television.
Yeah, I agree with that. Hey, Brent, when you look at what's going on in Gainesville, obviously Felipe Franks has decided to move on. Where are you hearing where his possibilities of landing might be? And also give us a little rundown of the early enrollees. I know they had a bunch of them come in after the Orange Bowl when school started.
As far as Franks, Arkansas has kind of popped up on the radar. Now he's visited Kansas with the aforementioned Les Miles, but Arkansas certainly with Sam Pittman, and Sam Pittman again was on the Arkansas staff a few years ago, and I know a lot of people question that hire, but frankly, once he gets settled in there, I think he'll be okay. He's still trying to get his staff together, and we're still trying to look at some of those. But 12 guys are midterm enrollees. I think Lorenzo Lingard coming over from Miami is going to be helpful with them. Frankly, you hear good things about Jordan Pouncey, Anthony Richardson at quarterback. Now, he's not going to be starting soon, but many means. But he's well liked. Well, with what he's done, I like them. They've met a lot of needs. They're rebuilding that offensive line and reinforcing it. And Isaiah Walker and Josh Braun. Josh Braun is a kid that Georgia wanted badly, and Florida got him. So I think they're very excited about that. I like what they did on defense with these three DBs coming in, Ethan Pouncey, the Rogers kid, and Rashad Torrance II. Even got a punter in there, which is always good, too. So, Shane, listen, and it changed over a degree. We used to never have anybody come in midterm, but now you can look across the board, the SEC. We've almost got every team bringing in double-digit mid-year transfers, which I think really is a tremendous advantage for these guys, especially when it comes to fall practice.
Yeah, I agree. We're speaking with Brent Beard. A couple more things here, Brent. When you move up to Athens, you mentioned earlier Jamie Newman, the quarterback transfer from Wake Forest, is going to Georgia. You know, he was a good player at Wake, but when I watched him play, I don't see it translating to what Georgia has done historically offensively. Do you think they're going to change to kind of cater towards him?
Well, I think that's a great point. And again, the thing that people are questioning is he played in a league that just frankly is not as good as it needs to be. So, but at the same time, the quarterback room that Kirby Smart has got right now is so inexperienced that I think he wanted some kind of assurance and insurance coming in that they would at least have someone that they could depend on until they get things going. And again, you've got a situation, the Blaylock kid tore his ACL in the postseason, and that's a problem. And they've got to be able to do something to open up their offense. And Shane, my concern for them now is losing a lot of these guys on the offensive line, like Cade Mays, who's transferring to Tennessee. His brother plays for them too. And again, Georgia has picked up, from what we understand, or at least they may be the leader in the clubhouse for Florida State tight end Trey McKitty, and he would be a pretty good pickup for them. But the reality is, Georgia gets some good tight ends, but oftentimes they don't know what to do with them. They had Isaac Nauta there a few years ago, which was one of the best tight ends of the country, and never really threw in the ball a lot. So one thing to really follow if you're an SEC fan is what's happening off season at Georgia and what they're going to do to improve their offense from last year.
Brent, going to Lexington, Kentucky, what Mark Stoops did last year, winning as many games as he did without being able to complete a forward pass was amazing to me. Lynn Bowden Jr. was probably the best player that people don't really know about in the entire country. When you look at them next year, I know Joey Gatewood, that you're very familiar with, I am as well. I thought he was a perfect fit for Gus Malzahn. For whatever reason, never got his opportunity. Is he eligible to play right away? Is he still waiting for a waiver to be the Kentucky quarterback?
That's a great question. I'm not positive on that. I think that's something that we'll look at and probably we'll hear more about with it coming up. But again, I mean, Gatewood. Look, I'm not saying he's Cam Newton. He's just built that way. He's a big, strong kid that. And I think they'll do a good job with his in getting him up to speed and helping his passing ability. And again, remember they had Terry Wilson, who got hurt early in the year, and that will be very interesting to see what they do with their with their quarterback room. But look, I'm with you. What the job that Stoops did, and I'll be frank with you, Shane, I thought that's who Florida State should hire with the ties he's got there. Again, that helps Kentucky. But he has done such a fabulous job. The latest thing coming out for them was A.J. Rose is coming back. He's a good running back for them, so that should be fun to see what they're going to do. Chris Rodriguez and the Smoke kid, who also had a good year last year, he will be returning. So listen, don't sleep on Kentucky in the job that they have done over the last few years, which I think has been incredible, frankly.
I agree. Old Rocky Top. I don't think people realize this. They have the second longest active winning streak in the country behind LSU. That's amazing.
Well, it is. And listen, I was at that bowl game, and that was a inspiring and stunning comeback they had in the last 5 minutes to beat Indiana. And the truth is, Jeremy Pruitt's going to do a good job there. They still don't quite have all the players that they need at this point, but they're getting better. They've added Miles Jones, who's a transfer from Nebraska. Jared Garantano, the quarterback, has posted that he has unfinished business as a senior, so that means he would probably come back. And also Brian Marr, the kid that also played when they were in Gainesville, had some surgery on his right leg, so he'll be fine. Shane, you remember this like I do. I covered the game against Tennessee in the middle of September. Shane, there were junior college teams that were better than that Tennessee team in September. But listen, they got it together, got on the 6-game win streak, as you mentioned, and there were a lot of teams didn't want to play Tennessee at the end of the year. So and again, I still think they're 2 years away from really being competitive in the division, but they've taken the steps in the right direction.
We got Brent Beard on the Titan MRI hotline. Final thing for you, Brent, before we let you go. We can't let you go until we hear about what's going on in Tallahassee and Coral Gables. What's going on with those two programs?
I think Florida State's is really going in the right direction. I like Matt Norvell. I thought that was a really good hire. All the way around. Now Florida State still keeps losing a few guys. Kyle Myers is going in the transfer portal. We mentioned McKitty, the tight end, a few minutes ago. So I think they're fine there with Miami. And by the way, what an awful stat this is. Miami, the only team that went bowling that failed to score, so they'll have to sit with that for a while. Garen Justice is who is at UNLV is going to be joining Manny Diaz's staff as I believe the offensive line coach. Rhett Lashley, who was at Auburn for a while.
Oh goodness, we lost Brent. Well, somehow we lost him. We appreciate Brent Beard joining us on the Titan MRI hotline from Jacksonville. We're going to take a quick timeout. We'll come right back and finish up the program, our last segment here on Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning.
Time out. There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, small enough to serve you, large enough to care.
Bob in trouble, gets rid of it. Oh, big hit.
Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility.
Our touchdown sponsors are Radware Promotional Materials, Gators Dockside, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Gator BTW, Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, Miapa Latin Cafe, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Okido America Martial Arts and After School, and Tropical Smoothie Cafe.
If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, podupwithshane.com, and click on the Advertise button or call Freddie Wiebe at 352-284-3733.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown.
Welcome back to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Technology. Brent Beard is back with us. Brent, finish up those comments with Florida State and Miami. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I think the main thing for Miami, if people have not heard, would be Rhett Lashley is their new offensive coordinator, replacing Dan Enos, who came from Alabama. But again, my big question for them is going to be what's going to happen at the quarterback position. They had some problem with that pretty much during the entire season last year. And I also wanted to mention real quick, Shane, a little bit of Texas A&M news that as far as they're losing some of their running back depth. Cordarian Richardson has entered the NCAA transfer portal, so they're low right now on running backs at this point. Their wide receiver, Javon Asborn, is coming back. He caught 66 passes last year, so that helps them. I would still say, and I've talked to A&M beat writers who have mentioned this, that Shane, that and I know this sounds funny, but I think folks will understand it. The reality is, A&M people have basically told Jimbo that he really is on the clock starting in 2020. That they needed to get their roster adjusted, to have a couple of years of recruiting after Kevin Sumlin left for Arizona, for them to really get going. So, look, they've got the facilities. They've got, I think, either the roster or very close to it now to be one of the teams that's going to be pushing Alabama, LSU, Auburn in that Western Division. So certainly keep an eye on the Aggies and what Jimbo is doing there.
Yeah, Brent, we got a text. Someone text earlier and wanted me to ask you your thoughts on it. With Joe Brady now going to the Panthers, you think there's any possibility of the Panthers making a huge trade to try to get Joe Burrow to Charlotte?
I think anything's possible at this point. I mean, with them working together as well as they did, you can believe that's probably already. As soon as Brady gets his suitcase unpacked up there, you would think there'd have to be some conversation about that, wouldn't you, Shane?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, anytime you've had the success that he had with that guy at the quarterback position, and I'm not sure where the Panthers, they've had a poor season. I'm not sure where they're going to be in the draft order, but as you mentioned, anything's possible in the National Football League.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And look, when you're working with guys who work with each other, and again, people may forget, but Brady was with the Saints and did a really good job there. And then obviously Orgeron goes to, or it actually wasn't even Orgeron. I think it was Insminger that went to a meeting with the Saints coaches, and then kind of having a little mini clinic or something like that. Brady gets up to the board and starts diagramming stuff, and basically the LSU coaches who were there went back to O and said, listen, for whatever it takes, we got to get this guy. So, and I tell you, Shane, it won't surprise me, and again, he's only in his late 20s, if Brady ends up being head coach one day, certainly in college or maybe even the NFL.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's a great story, and the year LSU had was phenomenal. Well, Brent, we appreciate you joining us, buddy. We'll talk to you next week. Have a good weekend.
You too, pal. Take care.
That's Brent Beard over in Jacksonville. You can check him out at Twitter, at Brent Beard. He joined us on the Titan MRI hotline, and we're going to go now. We got a ton of text messages that I got to run through here. Let's see here. It says, goodness gracious, this is Travis from Lake City. Has Clemson become a basketball school too? First North Carolina, and then last night Duke. I mentioned that earlier in the show, Travis. Yeah, they beat two Blue Bloods back-to-back games, so I wouldn't say Clemson. I'm sitting there at 9-7 right now, but those are two huge wins for their basketball program, no doubt about it. They stormed the court last night. This is Rachel from Jacksonville. She says, when does JC come back? Also, what time is the Gator basketball game Saturday, and is it a sellout? And how will Florida do versus Auburn, and is Auburn as good as its record indicates? Well, Rachel asked me a bunch of questions here that I'm not sure. JC will be back Monday. I know everybody misses JC. He'll be back in studios, in the Crime Prevention Security System studios on Monday morning. He's out on assignment, going to play golf out of the country. He says, what time is the basketball game Saturday? Gosh, I think it is a sellout. I'm not sure what time. I know it's an afternoon game. I want to say it's on CBS. And how will Florida do against Auburn? Auburn's a very good basketball team. I was watching a game last night. Jimmy Dykes, who I think is an outstanding analyst for ESPN, he thinks Auburn's a Final Four team. They went to the Final Four last year. So they're going to have their hands full tonight with Alabama and Tuscaloosa just because of the style of play Alabama has now. But Auburn is a very, very good basketball team, and Bruce Pearl's done a tremendous job there. Another text here on the Titan MRI text line. If you want to send a text, that's 353-7465. This is Ashley from Ocala. You're doing a great job, and we miss JC. My question is, when do you think the Gator football team will realistically challenge for a national title? Thanks, and I love the show. Well, Ashley, thanks for tuning in. I think the Florida Gator football team is on the right path. I think they will have a chance to make the 14 playoff. Their best chance next year, and the reason I say that is because it's year 3 in Dan Mullen's tenure. He 10 games year 1, wins 11 games this year. And with the way the schedule lines up, as I mentioned, I think we only play 3 games out of the state of Florida. That's one in Oxford against Ole Miss. You go to Tennessee, and you go to Vanderbilt. Everything else is in the state of Florida. If you look at the schedule, the 2 toughest games on paper are LSU and Georgia. LSU is here in the Swamp. So I would say right now, going into the season, on paper, Florida will be favored in every game they play. I think they'll be favored over Georgia depending on how the teams are playing and what the records are leading up to that game. But I really think Florida is going to be the pick for a lot of teams coming back to win the East. And we sure hope so, because it's time for us to beat Georgia. That was when Coach Spurrier took over the head coaching job here at Florida. When I got my opportunity, that was the first thing he said. If we're going to win SEC championships, we have to learn how to win on the road, and we have to beat the Georgia Bulldogs. And he had a lot of success. He lost to them one time. He was 11-1. So I think Coach Mullen and the rest of his staff, they will get this team ready to beat the Georgia Bulldogs next year, and hopefully we will be in Atlanta. Okay, let's see. We got another text here if I can figure out how to work this. This text doesn't say who it's from. But he says, great interview with the HBC on Monday. Will you have more of these in the future? Yes, we're actually going to have the HBC come sit in studio with me at some point. He's a busy man being the ambassador. It says, I understand HBC and Frank Beamer are coaching our future recruits in the Polynesian Bowl this weekend. Well, I'm not sure how many recruits in this bowl game out in Hawaii are coming to Florida. I don't know if any are. I do know Coach Spurrier's quarterback is going to Clemson. But yes, it's the Polynesian Bowl. It's a high school all-star game out in Hawaii. He's been out there for 7 or 8 days. I think it's Saturday. You can check the game out. I believe it's on CBS Sports Network. But, Coach Spurrier is going to set a lot of passing records over there. That was his main goal when he went over there. Got another text here. This was for Brent. I wish I would have seen it earlier. Says, Brent, who's your dark horse to win the SEC this coming year? That was from Daryl from Green Cove. Daryl, appreciate you sending the text on the Titan MRI text line. I will make sure we ask Brent that next week. Missed that one. We had him on the program. Well, we want to thank Brent Beard over in Jacksonville, and check him out on Twitter, folks, at Brent Beard. He's phenomenal at what he does. Tomorrow, we're going to have Austin Gale from Pro Football Focus talking NFL playoffs, and we'll recap what happens in the SEC and college basketball. Appreciate you joining us here from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.